This rehearsal of the Union Avenue Opera Theater was 9 days before the opening of its 11th season. Union Avenue's first production was Lucia de Lammermoor. It tells the tragic story of a young noblewoman forced to leave the man she loves for an arranged marriage so that her brother can turn the tide of his waning fortunes. Kristen Ryerson sang the title role of the ill-fated Lucia. She's performed with companies in St. Louis and across the country, but this season at Union Avenue Opera was her first. What do you think so far?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I've sung in a number of opera houses, and this is one of the best experiences, honestly, that I've had. They've been extremely professional all the way through and really pleasant to work with. And the artistic standards are really high here. So I'm really, really pleased.
Zeph and Quinn Hollis played Enrico, the brother pushing Lucia into a marriage she doesn't want. Hollis is back for a third season with Union Avenue.
As far as the regional things are going, it's a great place to come and build a role and do it in an ensemble type of feel where you really build a production.
The company performs operas in their original languages. Much of the cast and staff are talented younger professionals eager to get major productions on their resumes. Artistic director and conductor Scott Schoonover also founded the company. It's based at Union Avenue Christian Church in St. Louis's Central West End. In 1994, Schoonover was hired by the church as its music director. When he mentioned during the job interview his desire to also start an opera company, the church offered its support and its space.
It's changed so much, but it was quite a challenge at the beginning, and I think a lot of people to my face and behind my back said that I was crazy, and and I agree with them to some degree or another. But the first couple years we were all of us out there making our costumes, building the sets, begging my friends to come and work for very little money, at the time, and it's really changed a lot now. We have crews to do all the jobs that have to be done, and we have now a full union orchestra, and we have, people coming in from all over the country to do roles, and it's just changed completely in the past 10 years. First season, we did a small show called Dido and Aeneas by Purcell. It's an hour long. It was really one of those things where we had only 17 people come to the auditions, and I think of those 17 we probably used about 4 or 5, and the rest of them were favors called in to friends from college. I had gone to school at Illinois Wesleyan University, and I brought in 2 or 3 of my friends to do the main roles, the people who had graduated with me or a couple years before me, and they came to St. Louis and put them up with people from the church here and things like that. Just a string quartet with that first production. For us, it was a big triumph to get that off the ground. We got reviewed in the Post-Dispatch, and we got reviewed in Riverfront Times, and like I said, we got a grant from the Regional Arts Commission the very first year before we'd even done anything.
After a few seasons of smaller productions, Schoonover took a big leap with Union Avenue's first full-scale opera, The Marriage of Figaro.
And that sort of put us on the map, I think, as far as people starting to pay attention to us, because before that we were sort of maybe an experimental sort of theater, not in the mainstream, not doing works that people were interested in hearing. Our audience really filled out at that point. And then, so we started getting people that were coming from other places to see the operas at that point. And also then our donor base also started increasing once we started doing that. But the biggest thing that happened then was that singers from all over the place began to be interested in the company. So we started getting people coming in from New York to audition. We started getting people at that point from lots of people from Chicago, from the Kansas City area to come and audition. Now, of course, we do auditions in New York City, we do auditions in Chicago, and we do auditions on the West Coast. Last year we did Puccini's Turandot. I mean, everyone said, again, you know, that's insane. You can't do that show. That's the biggest show there is. But we did, you know, our version of it, a little bit more of a chamber opera, and people loved it. I mean, we had sold-out houses for it over and over and over, and just it was very much loved. So by all of us. We did a couple years ago Eugene Onegin of Tchaikovsky. That for me was a really special production. Every year, whatever we're working on always seems like my favorite, to be honest. That's how it feels. And then once we get past it, the next opera becomes my favorite, which I think is a good way to do it.
A decidedly different kind of music fills the costume shop, where the staff is as sharply focused as the performers rehearsing next door. Before a single stitch goes into a costume, designers research the period in which an opera is set, so the finished products look as authentic as possible. And when your opera company is on a tight budget, resourcefulness is always part of the creative process.
This is Lucia's wedding dress, which we see in Act 2 with her arranged marriage to Arturo. This is the bodice. And it's very ornate. We were able to rent it from the Repertory Theater of St. Louis. They've been very gracious to us. And this is Raimondo, Lucia's confidant, who is the Protestant minister. And again, an appropriate period garment with embellishments. And this cape has quite a bit of body, so all of his movements are very flowing. And it's going to be quite a visual statement, I think. I did a lot of work in New York researching for good low prices before I left, and we did some shopping at the local stores, and we've been fortunate to be able to find things that work and are appropriate, and also with our very small budget, we always have to take that into consideration. Scourging for fabric scraps from past seasons to use as pieces from trim and buttons, and removing things from something and putting it on something else, and a lot of rearranging.
The company has 3 weeks to pull all the facets of a production together, including constructing the sets. And all during opera season, Union Avenue Christian Church doesn't skip a beat with its Sunday service.
This is the chancel area. That's the pulpit right there. The lectern is over there. You can't see it.
Suzanne Webb is the church's senior minister. She says on most Sundays that fall in the opera company's season, services continue to be held in the sanctuary. And on each Sunday following an opening night, the congregation moves to the chapel.
The arts and music are very important to this congregation. That's why it's a good match for the opera company to be located in this building. It's not just because it's a wonderful building, which it is. I mean, and acoustically, it's very much alive. But this congregation for years, now not forever, but for years, has been committed to fine music and other expressions of art. So I think that's why it makes a good connection here.
As Union Avenue's reputation grows, so do comparisons to the older, better funded, and highly acclaimed Opera Theater of St. Louis. But Union Avenue's founder says those comparisons aren't fair.
Certainly in my mind, there's no comparison between the two companies. You know, we're still a fledgling company. We do things in the original languages, they do them in English. That's their hallmark, and I think that that's a great way of doing things too. It's just another way. Either company is spurring more interest in the art form.
There's always room for beautiful singing. There's always room for beautiful art.
It sounds like if you had the opportunity to come back, you wouldn't say no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.